From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, spring football coming up next week. Who's going to flash in terms of the holdovers from last year's transfer class and the guys that have been here since day one? Can Florida State compete in all the major sports now and in the next conference they land in? And we're generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Shake it and take it. Sip the juice. Vitamin Energy works faster and longer. Energy with benefits. I got my hand in here. Here, can you hear all that
nice.
goodness? That goodness right there?
That's
Nat sound. So we like to call Nat sound in the industry, Corey Clark. The Focus Plus extra strength tropical infusion flavor, 0 calories, 0 fat, obviously, less than 1 gram of carbohydrates, and then all sorts of nutrients, vitamins, B6, B12, some potassium in this mug, some coenzyme Q10, and obviously natural caffeine. Give it a try, everybody. See how your focus can be improved with just one little shot of Vitamin Energy. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Won't you come over and subscribe, hang out with us over on Warchant.com. Shout out to Troy Noel. He's graduating. He's getting closer to becoming a member of Warchant.com. He currently is one of our more recent additions to the members-only edition of Warchant TV. That's our YouTube channel over on YouTube. You should check that out, everybody. Hit the thumbs up, leave a 5-star rating and review. We'd appreciate it. I appreciate being able to do the show with Corey Clark. Corey Clark, how are you, friend?
I am great, Aslan. How are you doing? I'm back in Tallahassee, feeling good.
Holy smokes, brother. That's some driving.
That's what I do. It's what I do. Wanted to go hang out with Brady for a couple days. Got a wedding this weekend in Fort Myers, so I had to get down there so we could leave later on today for the wedding.
Oh, okay.
And then, so it's a lot of travel, a lot of time on the road for your boy.
All right, so when did you drive down last week? Not to get up in your business, but
I think Friday.
All right, covered some baseball games. Did the Laux press conference on Monday.
Well, did Leonard's last game.
Okay.
Did the Laux press conference on Monday. I was going to go up on Sunday, but then the Laux press conference was scheduled. I'm like, well, I got to stick around for that. So then I drove up Monday, was there Monday night, Tuesday night, and then came back down on Wednesday.
Good gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what great dads do, right?
Right, seriously.
It's just what great dads do.
Yeah, I didn't mean to miss the Laux presser. We had picked this date like 2 months ago or so to go down to Tampa and see my folks because I was like, all right, spring break is starting that weekend. I don't think they're going to be practicing football, and if they do, they'll be doing it on Friday. So, we left on Saturday. I'm like, yeah, nothing's going to be going on first weekend of spring break. And then they announced a new basketball coach.
Well, and I adjusted my schedule, but you didn't. So, Gene, if you're listening, and I know you are, just remember that.
All righty, then. With that said, let us get to these questions. This is a Renegade Express mailbag edition of the program. We're going to draw our monthly winner from the month of February. I don't know why I didn't do it last week. I apologize, but we're going to do it. It's going to be fun. Up for grabs, obviously a gift bag from our great friends over at Cummins. Our guy Mark M. Adam CZ, obviously. Preston Parker, WAC 169, and Island Chief. They're going to be in the drawing. Stay tuned for that. Right. Okay. We go to Bennett-Knoll, exclamation point. Morning, guys. You guys were able to watch practices of the 2023 and 2024 football teams. 2023 was good against good. 2024, sadly, bad against bad. Being able to see both of those teams practice, are you able to see characteristics of practices that can tell us we will have a good team or a bad team in a given year? I'd like to think so, Corey. But it's going to be tested. We'll see if we're able to actually watch practice this coming season. But again, I think there's going to be there's a level of competitive verve. That's a word you like to use, verve. I'll steal that from you, Corey. But I just think there's going to be a level of cleanliness and execution, efficiency and execution, speed, a lack of certain kind of unforced errors that you will see that will make you feel good. Now, will we see that in spring, though, while they're installing this new offense? I don't know. But check back when we're maybe hanging out in Jacksonville at UNF midway through fall camp, and maybe we'll get a better feel for it. But I don't want to even push it that far. I don't want to kick the can even that far. I would think by maybe the last week of spring practice, once they've been in Pats for like a week and a half, we'll be able to tell some bigger picture things.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to evaluating what we saw last year, I know we all thought they were going to be nobody. If we'd have come on the program and said, hey, we think they're going to be a 2-win team, you guys would have stopped listening and called us haters. So, but nobody saw that anyway. But it's hard to see that, man. It's hard to see what the overall ability of a team is, and that's why if you do listen to this show, and I'm certainly not a pat on the back, and I'm not excusing what happened last year from a evaluation standpoint, but I would really kind of hearken on specific position groups or a specific player. It's hard to know, man. It's just hard to know. Like the defensive line last year, we thought was going to be good, and when Darrell Jackson and Josh Farmer were in there and healthy, it was pretty good, but a lot of the times in August, they weren't in there. And so then I'm getting the overall point here. So without Jackson and Farmer on the defensive line, all of a sudden on August 18th or August 14th, the running game looks pretty good, opening up some big holes. Man, this offensive line might be the truth. It might be good. And no, it wasn't because of the talent they were going against on the other side of the ball. And I think that's just – so I like to focus more on either a position group or a specific player, and kind of like the the easier scouts of like, man, Keon Coleman's special, and I think if you listen to our shows in August, it wasn't as if we were sitting there telling you, man, this thing's humming.
Right.
It wasn't. We just assumed they'd be able to run the ball, and if they could have run the ball, they would have had an average offense. If they had an average offense, they win 7 games. Probably.
At worst.
Yeah. But they didn't even have anywhere close to that, and there was no way to know that on August 15th. There just wasn't. The offense looked overall pretty good. DJ wasn't incredible, but he made enough throws through the course of a game, and he had a long enough track record that you're like, okay, he won't be an issue. He's not going to be great, but he won't be an issue, and he'll be able to run some because he did run some in August, and then something happened, got hurt. Didn't run, looked slower than a glacier when he did, and it all just collapsed. To answer the question about the difference between 23 and 24, honestly, as far as the pace of the practice, nothing. The things they did, nothing was different. Last year, it was Malik Benson and Jaylen Brown catching passes from DJ. The year before, it was Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson catching passes from Jordan Travis. Does that make sense? Like, and even then, it wasn't like they just lit it up all the time, but you had 2 special wide receivers, or at least NFL wide receivers, and an NFL quarterback. You didn't have that last year, and I feel like that kind of played out in the way the season went, along with all the – it's not just those 2 positions' fault, all of it. But, again, not the back padding was we weren't in love with the receiver core. There were moments when you're like, okay, that was something, but we knew the receiving core was a big question mark, and it continued to be all season long.
Yeah, it just felt like if they had a running game, then it wasn't going to be as glaring of a weakness. I wish the more resources we put on something, we could guarantee you that we're going to get you more accuracy, but it's going to be really tough. Now I'm thinking about it as you kind of lay this out, Corey. It is going to be difficult to really make a firm assessment on the run game during spring. And that's what it's all going to come down to. I think Tommy is who Tommy's has probably been between 2023 and 2024. There's maybe the highs of 23 aren't sustainable, but hopefully the lows of 2024 aren't a consistent kind of place where he's going to hang out. So somewhere in the middle of that. And it's going to be predicated on some of these bigger chunk throws downfield. It's not going to, I don't think we're going to see a lot of 8-play drives from Florida State where there's going to be 7 throws where he's just kind of picking teams apart.
Right.
We'll probably see those 1 or 2 shots during an 11-on-11 period and just hope that he's got it somewhere in the range of a guy like Deuce Robinson that can make a catch. But yeah, it's all going to come down to how this offensive line looks moving the defensive line around. And I think for once we need to all be sold out on wanting to hear about this offensive line pushing people around and the defense giving up big plays. I know everyone's always about you don't want to. It's a double-edged sword. You don't want your offense lighting up your defense. No, I'm fine with it. I'm cool with it. I'm not cool with it
necessarily, but yes, for our standpoint of how bad the offense was last year, it would be great to see them clicking. But you're right, Castellanos isn't going to be a guy that we're going to come on here on a Tuesday and be like, guys, he was incredible. He was making every throw, tight windows, down the field, 50 yards down the field, anticipatory throws. That's not really his game. And what his game isn't something that you really, like Aslan said, that's not something that you really see a lot in March or in August. His game, the strength of his game, is something that I think is more exploited and highlighted when what's happening really matters.
When it's live.
When it's live, and that'll be Alabama in whenever, early September, late August.
Late August.
Sure
August
all right.
20th, August 30th? I should know this. Should be
Still Augie Doggy then. It's still going to be Augie Doggy.
It should
for
be
that
like
game.
firmly tattooed in my head.
Yeah. It is. It's August 30th because I was supposed to go to Pearl Jam in Chicago with some friends on August 28th, and can't make it.
Whatever happened to the...
Not Pearl Jam. I'm sorry. Oasis.
Oh.
Yeah, that's even a bigger deal. Pearl Jam tours all the time. Oasis hasn't toured in 15 years, and we got tickets for it, but can't go, which is a bit of a bummer.
I don't know if we ever got any finality out of you from like 4 years ago or whatever. When was it COVID that knocked out a Pearl Jam show?
The Pearl Jam it was the Pearl Jam show in Nashville that got knocked out. And then we ended up going and getting to see them the next year after the Louisville game. They played Bourbon and Beyond Festival in Louisville the Saturday night after the Friday night Johnny Wilson Louisville game.
But
did
you get like comped? Like were the tickets?
Oh no.
Did you get refunded for the COVID cancellation?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, they did. They did give our money back for that, but I didn't go see them like as their own act. But I am going to see them in May. So got a couple of them coming up.
All right. SQuinn67, wake up! You guys have been bringing a lot of content this offseason. Thank you. Well, it's for people like you, SQuinn67. As we approach spring football, we should all have high hopes for this team and the new coaching staff. Which players from last year and original signees do you think will have the biggest impact on our team this coming season? Likely Shaheen, but anyone else, please name them.
Original signees is what he said, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess basically guys that are holdovers from last year and then just any kind of original guy that enrolled right out of high school. Also, he says, tough loss Tuesday on the Diamond. Have you guys heard anything about Evan Crest's injury? As of us taping this, have not, but we will speak to Link late Thursday morning. We'll see. I don't know if he'll give us any kind of really detailed prognosis, but I think he'll probably give us some sort of long-term forecast on his availability. I would think he's likely out for the season, but I shouldn't probably say that.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, it wasn't like he was holding the elbow, or the shoulder, which are the two big ones. It didn't look like to me he was holding his elbow. When they grab the elbow, that's a wrap.
Right,
you know it. That's 18 months. It's Tommy John. It's happening almost all the time. That's a 99% guarantee. But it looked like it was more down his arm. Right?
Yeah, I thought it was like wrist. I thought it was wrist, but other guys in the press box were saying forearm.
Yeah, that I don't know what that could be. A strain.
Right.
It could be a tendon tear. I mean, who knows? It could be elbow. It's weird that it would like manifest itself in his forearm. That doesn't. I don't know that that's normal. So, and I know Link wasn't exactly positive about it, but he had just got lost to Florida, so that's never fun anyway. And watched what that bullpen did after Crest left. So, he probably wasn't in the best of moods. Hopefully, there's good news because that guy has some stuff to him now. He could be if he was available, he could be a big piece to the postseason. That is a number 4 starter, throws low 90s with that sinker that just most teams don't have. That kind of guy in their on their staff as a 4. So he could be a pretty big deal, or he could be a big deal in Omaha if they got there. If they play like they did on Tuesday night for much longer, they ain't getting anywhere. They ain't getting to Nebraska unless they buy a plane ticket. I know, it's a joke.
I don't know, man. I was scrolling through the roster here, cheating a little bit. Edwin Joseph could be a possible candidate. Maybe Omar Graham, guys on defense. I know Omar Graham put his name in the portal, but then quickly withdrew, and that sometimes irks people. And I know Adam Fuller's gone, and Adam Fuller seemed to be like his biggest cheerleader on the staff. But if you look, I think on PFF, if I'm not mistaken, I think Omar actually, I know the Georgia Tech game was not his shining moment on the football field for this program, but I think he kind of ended up ramping up a little bit better towards the end of the season. It was arguably their best linebacker, which, I don't know what that really does say after how much they struggled as a unit last year. But Those are the kind of guys I think about, at least that enrolled off the rip. I don't know any kind of holdovers. I mean, that might be an easier thing to pick from, like the guys that transferred in last year that still stuck around in terms of producing, being leaders. I mean, that would be, I don't know, like Roy Dell, Jalen Brown. Who else? I mean, like TJ Ferguson, perhaps. I don't know, anybody stick out in your mind, Corey Clark?
Yeah, but those are all transfers. I thought he was talking about like either signees from this class or original signees.
Exactly. So which players from last year does that mean both they're from last year?
I thought
and
he
the original
meant, yeah.
signees?
I thought he just meant guys that Norvell has signed was, I think, the sentiment of the question out of high school. Shaheem's a good one. Look, I'm really interested in Nicholson and Cryer and what they do in this offense. I think does Cryer count? He never really played at Northwestern.
Yeah, he left after spring, I think.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't technically a commit, so maybe he doesn't count. He's a portal kid, but he started his whole career here.
And they recruited him though out of high school. I mean,
they didn't sign him though.
Yeah,
they didn't sign him though, did they, Aslan? Not until what's his name got fired.
Pat Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald, yeah. So Nicholson maybe. I mean, Nicholson's a pretty rare athlete now. He was that watching him at times last year was a lot like to me watching. Who were our guys in 2000 that had to play? Lundy and Stephen Dix.
Oh, 2020?
In 2020. Just had no idea where they were supposed to be half the time because they were really young. And they were forced down to play for a defense that they shouldn't have been forced to play for that young and that early, but they did, and they were confused a lot. I think Nicholson was confused a lot. Some of that's coaching, some of that's just experience. He has some pretty rare abilities in athleticism for a linebacker, and I would love to see how he's utilized in this defense. Either coming off the edge, being maybe a playmaker on swing passes or passes over the middle to tight ends. Like I think he could maybe be that role. So and also one of the wide receivers. Don't know who. Could be McCoy. Could be Hakeem. Could be one of the new guys.
Elijah Moore, maybe.
Yes, correct. B.J. Gibson. Whoever. But I think Cam Fryer, there's a lot to choose from. I think one of the wide receivers will make a really big impact this year, too.
Onward we go. Next question. Blue Nole. Instead of wake up, he says sleep. Interesting.
I think some people might listen to us as they go to sleep. I do that with podcasts. So we should have like a 30 seconds on every show where we just scream really loudly to wake people up.
I listened to the Luke Laux press conference on 1.25 speed. And I know some people do that for our podcast. Please don't do that. Enjoy it as intended, much like a movie on a big screen.
What do we care? As long as they're listening.
You're right.
Yeah, come on, man.
Blue Nole says, if Mike Alford was a baseball player, he actually was. True story. For UAB and Mississippi State. I would have to say his batting average would be very high if it was a metaphor for his coaching hires, although the jury is still kind of out on Mike Norvell. Yeah. I personally think he's got a good eye that helps him make solid contact in regards to his decision-making in these matters. That being said, do you think the Laux hire will up his average or lower it? From a strikeout to a grand slam, what type of hit or out is this? I'm thinking in metaphors. Blue Nole. P.S. Stop snubbing me from generating discussion. Are you guys in bed with ESPN or something?
Yes, of course.
This is a really good question, Corey. So good, in fact, I'm going to get bullied for, I think, a second week in a row making this our generating discussion topic. Corey, there we go. I'm going to wait for the camera's already fired up.
That's right.
By the way, our guy James B said that he should have asked this question about practice accessibility. He should have saved that for the mailbag because he could have won. He told us to fire up the generator.
Oh, that's right. Smart.
Before we get
that's right.
tackling Blue Nole's question, part of generating discussion is obviously being showcased on this program when we do this. But you also get entered into a drawing to win a swag bag from Cummins at the end of every single month. We're going to do that now for this past month of February. And then you obviously get entered into the drawing grand prize end of the year, either a portable generator or a portable power station. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the deck, Core. I'm going to hit shuffle twice.
Okay.
Whack 169, Island Chief, M. Adam CZ. They are all up trying to win that Cummins gift bag, shirts, hoodies, other cool things. Who's the winner going to be?
Oh, barely. Island Chief pulling it out at the end.
There you go. Island Chief, be on the lookout for a DM. We'll get your information, and then we'll go ahead and send it out to you and get you your gift back. All right, Corey, with that said, then let's turn our attention to the question from our guy, Blue Nole, and that is, what do we think about Michael Alford? What do we think about this hire? He gets credit for or maybe blame for the Norvell extension. He was not the AD when Norvell got hired in 2019. That was David Coburn. But obviously Penske, I think he's had probably Lonnie came up for an extension at some point. So, Penske's one of the hires, Link Jarrett, obviously, and now Luke Lauk. So is this going to up his average? And how would you compare this on the hitting chart? I feel like this is like a sizzling single up the middle that you could possibly turn and stretch for two.
And it's too small a sample size to really know what that batting average is, right? Like, I think it was well said. And it's crazy to think about, but the jury is still out on your head coach. They just went 13-0 2 years ago. It was funny. I was actually at Orange Theory getting ready to work out, and one of the guys there was like, he goes, "Yeah, they were so bad last year, and it was just like 3 or 4 years ago they were undefeated." And I'm like, "No, man, it was last year they were undefeated." And the woman next to me started laughing because she was a Florida State fan too. I was like, "Yeah, it might feel like it was 4 years ago. It was the year before." So yes, we don't know what Norvell is, and they might rue the day that they gave him that extension. But I don't know that many people could blame him, right? Like, he did look like the truth. The truth. And he was a great ambassador for you. You believed everything about the way he ran a program, believed about everything about him as a person. And he had just gone 13-0 and got snubbed and all that. So I don't think people are going to blame maybe the amount, but you were also trying to keep him away from Alabama. So said his agent anyway. But as far as Luke, man, it's a great question. I don't know. Here's the thing about it, though, Aslan. I think that's a fair point. In football, it's essentially either a home run or a foul ball. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of in between. You because that sport you can't.
Or a strikeout is either a home run or a strikeout.
Or you can't afford to have an in between in football. Basketball, you can. You can afford to have a bloop double or right, or a bunt single. Or a home run would be great, but anything that's positive is a big deal for this university. So, there's no way to know. I could sit here and guess, which is all we really do anyway. But there's no way to know what Luke Lauk is going to do. I hope he does great.
It's tough because listen, to a certain extent, Michael Alford's a victim of his own success. Because Brian Penske, they won a national title. Am I not mistaken, Corey?
You're not mistaken. That was it might have been the best soccer team in college soccer history, and that's not hyperbole. When you look at what they did in the NCAA tournament, they didn't lose a game that year. In the schedule they played and the teams they beat, you could argue that was the best soccer team in college history.
Yeah, and the next season they bounced back with a team they thought was maybe even better, but they fell short of repeating.
Yeah.
And then you look at what Link Jarrett did last year. Link Jarrett took them to Omaha. They were one of the last 4 teams standing.
Yeah.
They were the second remaining undefeated team this season after they lost to Florida on Tuesday night. You feel really, really good about that hire. And those are the only 2 hires I can think off the rip. I don't know there's an Olympic sport. We'll see about the lacrosse coach. I don't know just how successful lacrosse team is going to be from the rip, but yeah, man, those are big shoes. That's a high standard to hit if you're Luke Lauk. And we probably have to kind of grade it on a curve because soccer has been successful for so long under Mark Krikorian, and baseball obviously has such a storied history under the Martin family. I feel like if Luke can get them to a Sweet 16 in the next 3 years, I think it's on par with the Link Jarrett and Brian Penske hire.
How about like just a couple years, not even on the bubble, like just so into because again, that's a random weekend. And again, that's what you want. You want to have great NCAA tournaments. You want to get to a Final Four. I get all that. But the way I have always judged these programs is the regular season, how good you are, because that's the consistency that goes on. And that's a Braves fan talking who hasn't had a lot of postseason success to draw on.
Come on.
But it's a couple World Series and a lot of not World Series. But the franchise was solid and very, very good. That's what you want. So to me, if he can get this team to where, and I don't know whether it's 70% or 66% or whatever, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5. I know that's 60, not 70, but somewhere in that neighborhood where they're in the tournament, no matter what happens in the tournament, I think that's a success. I think that's a success. That's what his goal should be. It's not that hard to get in the tournament, man. The entire SEC is going to the tournament. So it's not that hard to get into the tournament, especially in the ACC, where it's not good. You can be one of the top 5 teams in this conference. And at least, like, that's the thing, Aslan. Florida State is either during Leonard Hamilton's tenure, at least since I've been covering, some 2009-ish on, so the last 16 years, they're either in the tournament or nowhere close to the bubble. I don't remember a lot of Selection Sundays where you're sitting watching, wondering if Florida State's going to be in the tournament. It was either absolutely they're in the tournament or no chance.
Yeah.
How about get you on the bubble a little bit? How about a first 4 out or a last 4 in? Like, at least you should always be on the verge of being in the tournament, even if you don't make the tournament. But yes, it would be, I would say, 5-year contract. It's not too much to ask to sniff the tournament 3 years.
Ooh, okay. All right. There. It's been said. We figured it out, everybody.
And if not, Alford has to go. Right, Aslan? Get him out of here. It's a failure. So, yeah. But Alford, weirdly, think about all the things on Michael Alford's plate the last 3 years and where basketball coach must rank.
Yeah.
You know, isn't that crazy? Like, there aren't many ADs that have gone through a football facility being built, a stadium being refurbished, having to make people buy these tickets and the personal licensing fees and all the stuff that came with that, with a bunch of angry season ticket holders, going 13-0 to 2-10, having to hire Gus Malzahn, then also baseball and the conference. What conference are you going to be in? It's been a crazy 3 years where basketball is not the least of his worries, but it's certainly not at the top of the list. Hopefully Luke can get it done for him. Make him look like a genius.
Volatility. It'll stress out even the most calm of all of us. To counteract that, consistency, reliability, a power leader, Cummins. Give them a follow on Instagram, Cummins Lifestyle, all one word. See all the awesome things you can do on your downtime, your recreational time when you use Onan products, the portable generators, the portable power stations. Cummins got you covered. Get involved in this show too, everybody. You can be a winner. Swag bag, win one of those things I just mentioned for free. Give it a follow, Cummins Lifestyle. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. CPTallybar.com, the website. Bingo night going down 7 p.m. Come on out. 4 opportunities to win $250 in cash. American currency, everybody. Cold, hard cash. Come do it. It's going to be fun. Maybe even have your lunch there beforehand. Come back later at night. Bring the whole crew with you. And don't forget, on Friday night, live music at the CP from 6 to 9 p.m. Woody Harvey. Shredding that axe, grinding that axe, picking at that guitar. So that can align with your Friday plans as you dovetail into a weekend that will include Florida State hosting Boston College in their first conference showdown of the season in baseball. Can't go wrong at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corey Wrap also available. Give it a try.
I don't shout this out enough, but we get it a lot more than I realize. I think the sausage bites, which just happen to be register sausage, by the way.
Look at that.
So some crossover with Warchant properties, but they're really good. And I would say this: if you're gonna get, they have a sauce called Carolina Gold. That's a nice little dipping sauce to go with the register sausage, or barbecue, or honey mustard, whatever you want. But the register sausage bites, that's a nice little nibbler. If you're just there for a little while, you want a snack, maybe a couple drinks, might I suggest the register sausage bites?
All right. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. We go to our friend down south, Marlon Joker. Wake up, gents. Aslan, can we get Cummins swag to our new basketball coach so his phone stops dying and he can work his magic in the portal?
Fair point.
Has something happened? Was there something on social?
Well, he said that I think when he was talking to Cameron, he said he kept he kept having to try to find a port to charge his phone because it kept dying.
Okay.
It had been close to dying or had died a couple of times in the previous 72 hours.
Okay. All right. We'll see if we can get our folks at Cummins to give him one of those battery banks. I think that's gone into some of the swag bags in the past.
Well, you can also stop playing Angry Birds. That just sucks your battery, Luke. Don't play. Or what's the candy one?
Shoot.
Remember it? It's like Candy World or something. We're the oldest and dumbest. I can't remember it either.
I didn't get into it. Farmville, right? Wasn't that
there you go.
Farmville?
That's nice.
Candy Crush.
There it is. Yeah, he's playing Candy Crush too.
I'm just trying to prove my chops so I can one time get called up to the big show and be on Corey Clark's trivia team. So
good luck, buddy. You're gonna need a lot more than that. That took too long.
All right. Secondarily, Marlon asks, with the newfound money. And I don't even know what newfound money we're referring to.
Well, when you're paying Luke $11 million, you got it somewhere.
All right. Well, secondary, with the newfound money, does Mike Norvell survive a 6-6 campaign this season? Love the show as always.
It's a good question, right? What do you think?
6-6. I'm not even going to do it. Well, it depends who they lose to.
No, but think about really it's 4-6.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. That is not a 6-6 season. That's a 4-6 season. Just like technically last year to me was a 1-10 season. But anyway, go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on who do you have lined up. I would think who. I don't know. Listen, if Ole Miss is competing for a playoff spot and Lane Kiffin sounds open to you, I think I'd pull the trigger. But it's not me cutting the check. And I don't think Deion coming here is a legitimate possibility. But listen, if Colorado's doing really good and he reaches out to you and is like, I'd be interested in coming back to my alma mater, and you're 4-5.
It's not his alma mater. His alma mater's like Tarleton State or something, right? Isn't that what he said to that reporter?
You're right. The school that helped put me on the map, and I helped put it on the map.
Yeah, right.
I think at that point, I mean, what's 6? I'm not even. You're totally right, because again, the Kent State, East Texas A&M games, you're already starting the season off with 2 wins, so you only end up going 4-6 the rest of the way. Like, what are you really planning for? I just don't think there's a lot of springboard for even 7 wins almost. But I don't think you can fire a guy after 7 wins. That's I think you reach out to those guys. You reach out to Lane Kiffin, and I don't want to say Deion, but someone else that's put together a couple good seasons at the Power 5, Power 4, 2 level, whatever. And if they're interested, I think you make it happen. But I'm not cutting any checks, so I feel bad even talking about it.
Yeah. By the way, it was Talladega College. I just looked it up. We all remember that. We all remember how Deion dominated at Talladega College in the '80s. Just incredible what he did for that program. Yeah, I think I'm of the opinion now, especially with the extra 15 or 20 million coming in, perhaps, or I should say is on the table to come in if you're good and relevant. Plus, you need to be appealing to the Big Ten. If he goes 4-6 this season, then I'm out of the Norvell. I know. I don't know. 4 weeks ago, I was arguing, man, I don't know that you can afford to go pay this guy $50 million to go away, and you still might not be able to. But look, if there's a huge rash of injuries, man, if there's unforeseen circumstances, understood. But that didn't happen last year. They were just horrible. If it was something similar to that again, if they're losing 6 or 5 conference games, I would think long and hard about, okay, this guy either never had it or lost it. And we got to figure something else out. I don't know that he could survive. I don't know that he can survive 6-6. I don't, and I don't know that he should, because it's these next few years are just too important. And moreover, if he goes 6-6 in 2025, Aslan, it should be an easier schedule. It's not an easy schedule, but it should be a little bit easier. Where is any hope that 2026 will be any better?
Yeah.
If he goes 6-6 this season, like, everybody's out, man. There's no juice. There's no energy. Good luck recruiting. I would feel like that would be a perfectly good time. It would be awful that you have to pay that man that much to go away. Maybe he'd be nice and just take half of it. Just cut me a check for 29. I'll be good with that. It's fine. You still won the lottery, Mike. Come on, man. But yeah, so I would very much think that would be. I would be of the mindset, I think, it's time for something else. But I'm not. I wouldn't. It wouldn't take me. It wouldn't be hard to convince me he needs one more year, save whatever that is, $50 million, and you're saving $20 million or whatever that would be, $10 million by not firing. No, you're saving more than that. Think about. I just want to get the finances out of the way. So if you do want to hire Lane Kiffin, that's $12 million probably you have to pay that man. You also have to pay. Let's just say you paid Mike Norvell $8 million every year for the next 5 years to not coach. So now you're paying your head coach at Florida State University for the next 5 years $20 million. On top of the assistants you have to fire and buy out and the new assistants you have to bring in, on top of good players. It's a financial world where you're like, okay, man, please don't go 6-6. Don't make us have to make that decision. But that's a lot of money to spend to fire someone after a mediocre season, but also there's a lot of money at stake at the end of this decade, man, and you've got to make sure you got the right guy at the helm.
Very well said. I would be absolutely fascinated to see the secret list in the vault in the Moore Center or wherever, or behind Michael Alford's desk of like the list of names he has. Because that's the thing. I mean, who are you going to replace him with? Because I don't think 6-6 gets you to the point where I don't disagree with you. I realize like you lose some juice, but I mean, the buyout drops to 54.4 after this season.
Yeah.
That's such a, I mean, I know you're not paying it all at once. You're going to obviously break it up, but I don't know if like 6-6 totally gets this thing completely toxic to where everybody is checked out. So maybe you can be like, all right, we can fake this for one more year and see what else is out there. But I just really wonder who else out there would, who's going to have like the strong season, who's going to emerge as one of those guys where it's like, hey, this guy could possibly be the next.
And I know you don't want to think about it, but it does matter how it happens in the sense that what if they look great with Castellanos and he gets hurt week 7? What if they're 5-1 with him and he looks great? He's an early ACC Player of the Year candidate, and then he sprains an ankle and can't play, or hurts his shoulder and can't play, and they go 1-5 with Brock Glenn. Well, if you got Castellanos coming back, you might feel pretty good about your prospects if he's looked good. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. There's always circumstances that we don't foresee that could make 6-6 not as bad as it sounds. But right now, to me, 4-6, I should keep saying that, not 6-6. 4-6 sounds disgusting, and I don't want any part of it. And I would not be very fired up about him. I also wouldn't be fired up about paying him $54 million. I almost want to be like, no. It's like, you sit here and eat your vegetables. This is misery for you. Well, guess what? If we're going to pay you $54 million, you don't get to go be an assistant at Alabama and live and have a condo on the beach and kick your feet up. No, you get to sit in this misery. You get to eat your vegetables. You can be here all night. You be here at midnight until you eat your spinach. That's what I would feel. That's part of me would be that way, almost vindictive. No, I'm not paying you to go away. You either fix this or you sit in misery and answer all these questions.
Whack 169, similar vein of question here. Good morning, guys. Corey, I hope you got whatever was aggravating you straight, as you sounded very agitated. I hope all is okay.
It's all right. It's just something dumb with it really. I can't even get into it, but it's nothing. It's nothing serious. It's just it's bothersome, but it's more of an irks. Yeah, I'm more irked than anguished, if that makes sense.
To be honest, I'm still in a state of shock from last year. It was unreal how bad that was, and I don't see how it will be that much better in one off season. I've listened to some other podcasts, and between them saying things like they were shocked that players like Peyton and Marvin Jones Jr. may have come back, Florida State going all the way down to the 4th choice for their offensive line coach, the wide receiver coach not being any good at all, and not being able to recruit nor coach players. The quarterback coach shouldn't be here. It's made me think that we are looking at more of the same. The high school recruiting has been a mess. No quality quarterbacks signed. Just feels like Mike crossed over a line that there just isn't any coming back from last year. Now I'm worried about FSU sucking for the next 3 years. We become the laughingstock of college football. We sued, spent all this money to get out of the conference, and we suck so bad we've got nowhere to go. People say 7-5, 8-4 would be good enough, but long-term, I don't think that's correct. The ACC sucks in football, along with most other sports. So to be getting extra money and still not being able to dominate, that is the ultimate nightmare, and we spent all that money for jack squat. Talk me off the ledge now, please, guys. Thank you.
I mean,
I don't think Herb Hand was there. Come on, fourth. I heard.
no.
I know. I think wide receiver coach. They had some other people above Tim Harris Jr. But
Sure.
again, wide receivers coach. We hated Dugans, then we loved Dugans, then we hated Dugans again. So if he's got good guys playing out there, talent wise, I don't think that's really as much of a problem. But I don't know just how formed this receiving core is going to be. But yeah, I don't think. No, I mean, dude, Herb Hand had to be. Listen, they got Gus.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Gus had 3 other people, considering he's worked with Herb at 2 other previous stops that he had kind of in front of it. So I'm not aware of the other narratives out there, but I understand the concern that, I mean, this could not be the full solution. But, man, you've rebooted your entire coaching staff practically. You got a new quarterback. You've got new receivers. Defensively, I don't know if they've got enough pieces on that side, but like offensively, which is what weighed you down, was the albatross around you. My gosh, you've done everything humanly possible to get that thing fixed. It's hard to imagine it being more of the same.
Well, I would say this, and I understand the concern, but also and I know he realizes that college football isn't the same anymore. You can take a huge pivot in 1 year and become good after being awful. It does happen. We had teams in the playoff last year that were awful the year before. This isn't out of the realm of possibility. But when you're looking at this, I guess I don't understand why you would be so negative. I know why you'd be negative about Norvell in this. I know why you'd be negative about 2024. It was awful. I don't understand why you would be negative about the offseason when, I mean, who did you want at DC? And now I'm not saying Gus Malzahn is the best OC in the country, but he's got, for guys that would have come to this job to work for Mike Norvell or to work at Florida State as an OC, he has the best pedigree on the planet. Like, legitimately. There's nobody you could have gotten the UNLV guy. Would you be excited about that? Like, is that or what was his name? The Fun and Gun? What was that thing called?
The
Go-Go offense. And I'm not saying he might be awesome, but I'm saying there would have been question marks about that. Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand, there are no question marks about what they're going to do offensively. There just aren't, unless Florida State is somehow immune to good even average offensive line play. If it just can't happen, then they are going to be better on the offensive line. They are going to run the ball. They are going to score more points. That happened. That is a guarantee. They went out and guaranteed that they're going to have a better offense. Don't know how much better, but it will be better. And they also got, I don't know, man, they got a DC from the Big Ten. A good one.
From Nebraska.
That they didn't want to lose.
Yeah,
like Nebraska.
Matt Rule hired him.
Right, and Matt Rule really liked him, and he was very good there, and he was good at Syracuse. Like, again, when you're talking about resumes, I don't know that you could do much better at the positions that matter most, which is those 2 coordinator spots. The fact that Norvell's going to let Malzahn run the show. All of that, I think, is really good news. Does it mean it's going to be 9 wins? Don't know. Have no idea. How could anyone? But I don't know why you would be so – I just don't think – other than trying to change a mindset or the here we go again mindset if they trail in the third quarter against Alabama or they're trailing against Stanford or something, I don't know that 2024 has anything to do with 2025. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, I think part of it when he says the thing he said about hearing on other podcasts that those people are shocked that guys like Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. may have come back. I guess in terms of allowing those people back into your program. Like if he didn't see, and listen, I don't know if they were welcome back, if they were told to leave, but if there was, if you knew for sure that Mike was like, hey man, we'd like for you to stay, that might raise your sort of, a brow and think about his judgment. But I don't know, man. I think Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. are scapegoats personally, man. I mean, there's a lot of problems on that team. I don't know how much they played into it, but
and also I would say that maybe the thought there is that maybe this DC and this D-line coach will get more out of them. Yeah, that can happen too. So that might be the thought: is if they're not going to play hard for Tony White or Terrence Knighton, or they're not going to be impact players. Then they got no chance to be good anywhere because these guys are really good. At least they're ballyhooed. They're lauded as being really good at their jobs. And I think, again, I think you've gotten better at defensive line coach and offensive line coach, and I think you've gotten better at DC and OC, frankly.
What about linebacker coach? Papuchis?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. Have no idea. But I think that what you got, and I just wouldn't get too caught up in a receivers coach.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Go be tall, Deuce Robinson. Go be fast, Squirrel White. Like, you want your receivers coach to teach toughness and make sure they block. But other than that, it's a lot of God-given ability. And obviously knowing where they're supposed to be is a big deal. But I just last year's team was awful. And they weren't coached well. There wasn't a lot of talent at key positions, clearly. But I think they at least tried to address it. Will it work out? I don't know. But then even if they go 8-4 next year, that doesn't mean anything for 2026. They could be 12-0 in 2026 or back to 5-7. We have no idea. My overall point is, don't let one bad year make you believe that it's unsalvageable. That's just not the case in college football anymore. It certainly shouldn't be the case at Florida State. Indiana was in the playoff, man. I can't keep stressing that enough. Indiana was in the playoff.
Arizona State was in the playoff.
They were both 3-9 teams last year. Do we think
SMU
that Indiana's coaching staff collectively, could be wrong, maybe that guy's he's the best coach in the country. Do we think their collective coaching staff is better than Florida State's? Do they have better players from 1 to 85 than Florida State? They played
considerably more of an easy schedule than Florida State.
They did last year, yeah. They did last year, but still, what would Florida State have done on that schedule? 5-7? Good grief. That was just an awful, awful team. But I just let's see how it plays out. Let's see how this plays out. I'm right with everybody. But like Aslan said to start this, was a much better answer. They hit a hard reset. It's not like they just stood pat. They made drastic changes, not just to the roster where they brought in 40 new players. Half the team is different, including the entire offense. Literally, the entire offense is different. No holdovers. Literally none, I think, except Landon Thomas and Amari Wood.
Probably Richie Leonard, probably.
Yeah, but he played half the season, right? If that. I'm talking about like the team you saw against Notre Dame and Florida.
Skill position guys.
They're all gone. They're all gone. And the whole offensive line will be brand new, except for Richie Leonard, who played a handful of games. So, and the coaching staff has been blown up. So let's see what this looks like. It's not encouraging that you had to blow up an entire staff and start over. That doesn't bode well necessarily for the future. But let's see what this incarnation looks like before we just get all too much despair.
I hope we get to a point where we really dive in and analyze and look back at the whole offensive coordinator hire, because I think Mike said it turns out at one point he and Gus both had the same bye week, and that's kind of when this all came to fruition. Because I know there was reporting out there, and I think we even reported ourselves on Warchant, that at one point it seemed like Brennan Marion was the favorite. Now, I don't think there was a job offer tendered or extended to him, but it sounded like he was the leading candidate for the job. So, did Mike think in a million years he couldn't get Gus? When he finally got that phone call with Gus, he was like, oh, shoot. Brennan, sorry, man, but Gus said he wants to come. And I think you're in a much better position, Florida State, having Gus right now than you are Brennan Marion. And listen, man, Brennan Marion, people thought that UNLV might go ahead and elevate him to head coach after Barry Odom. I don't know, where did Barry Odom even go? But they hired Dan Mullen, and he ends up at Sacramento State. So that could have been your hire, but you end up getting Gus Malzahn. So makes you feel good, a little bit better. I can't imagine really what the upshot is right now. If we've got a 34-year-old guy that we're clinging our hopes to, that was at UNLV last year. Yeah,
there'd be a lot more question marks. Again, it doesn't mean that one is better, absolutely would have a better career at Florida State than the other. But man, that is a huge question mark to go from UNLV. Could be could have been great, like I said. Then Gus Malzahn is about as sure a thing as you can get. Not as a head coach. He ain't the head coach here. So don't come at me with 4-8. I know he was 4-8. He's not the head coach. But as an offensive coordinator for 20 years, he's been one of the best, most consistent guys in the country. And you got him. I don't even think Norvell thought that was a possibility in November, early November, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, so they both had a bye week between the 9th and the 23rd. So that between that Notre Dame and Charleston Southern game, that's when they both had it. I don't know what kind of reporting was done at that point about Brendan Marion's candidacy, if you will, but because they didn't. Nobody got fired until after the Notre Dame
look,
game.
Man,
right?
that has to be Malzahn reaching out because Malzahn wasn't going to be fired at UCF. He had back-to-back 9-win seasons. He had one bad season. They're not firing him for one bad season, especially when they didn't know who his quarterback was. But that has to be Malzahn reaching out. Norvell, I don't think Norvell would presume. That would be almost insulting for Norvell to be like, hey, I know you've been a head coach now for over a decade, and you've coached in the SEC, and you just won 18 games the last 2 years combined. But would you want to come run this offense for less money? That had to be Malzahn's camp reaching out, not the other way around.
We're back. I think it's probably the last segment of the week, but who knows? Something crazy could happen later today. Stay connected to warchant.com to find out whatever that possibly could be before we were to do a podcast for you folks. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it. Last question in the mailbag, and I think it's a good one to kind of go out on. All right. It's our guy Up North Noles guy. Hey guys, as always, enjoy the show. Going to order some registers to celebrate us reaching 60 degrees for the first time in Minnesota this spring, so we're set for grilling later this year.
Nice. Already up to 60. It was close to 80 in Tallahassee on Wednesday.
Toasty. Yeah. Seems a lot of the Tribal Council family here on the boards weren't pleased with Coach Laux' starting salary. I guess I'm more of a happy for Luke and Steve because they're Noles, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, right.
Than excited or really.
And also, it's not our money. It's not my money. I mean, it's I guess theoretically for boosters, it's some of their money, but it's not my money. Good for you, Luke.
I could see where Corey thought the salary may be lower, but realistically, what better candidate were we going to entice knowing our situation for less than $2 million for the first year? USA Today database has the Boston College coach with more than that for last year, but he was still outside the top 60 in the article I found from 24-25. The less than Golden Gophers here in Minneapolis are grossly overpaying their mediocre coach. More than that, and folks here are not happy, all caps. Yeah. It may be time to realize it's just expensive to hire a coach these days, though I get being concerned with paying for a guy that's never been a head coach at any level. My question is a branch of that discussion on the cost of playing college sports in this era. Does FSU really have the ability as a university to be very competitive in football and hoops, i.e. playoffs in football, NCAA tournament, 70% of the time, while still maintaining extremely competitive programs and whatever else we call not football, not basketball, even if we get in the Power 2? Seems like a simple yes, but is the reality more complicated than a simple yes or no? Do we have to pick a few sports, a few spots, which means consistently very good hoops isn't in the cards at FSU because the baseball program is so beloved? Sorry for all the text. Appreciate you guys.
A lot of good points there. That's a lot of good points. I think that going back to the Luke point real quick, I would just say that you could have paid somebody that kind of salary that had proven to be a winner at the college level. But at the same, at a smaller school, obviously, but at the same, or an assistant for a really big program, you could have paid for more of a known, but that does not guarantee anything. Just doesn't. Look around the country; it just doesn't. Like I said, Luke might be awesome. The point is a fair one. That's just the going rate. That's the going rate of doing business. And if Florida State considers itself a normal Division I Power 4 basketball program, you're going to pay that kind of money to get a head coach. So that's how it is. The other point about 70% is a kind of an arbitrary percentage, though. Why 70? You think? Just like that's you're better. You're more often better than not.
Well, I guess my thing has always been 2 out of 3. Get to Omaha, 2 out of 3, every once every 3 years or so, which would drop it considerably below the 60% or 70% threshold. That's the way I kind of maybe.
But he was talking about basketball and football, not baseball. Right. Baseball, look, man, if you're in the top 10, it's hard to get to Omaha. We've addressed that. So I wouldn't use the College World Series getting there as a barometer of how strong the program is as much as I would how many top 8 national seeds did you get or how many regional hosts did you get? Remember, at the end of Mike Martin in the entire Mike Martin Jr. tenure, they were on the road in the regionals. Yeah. Get back to where you're hosting regional games, you're one of the best programs in the country. That's that to me is my gauge of how strong the baseball team is, because that's more of a snapshot of the entire season as opposed to, hey, they got hot in June. That's how good they are as a baseball program, is how consistent they are over the course of 4 months, not just 4 days. So with that being said, I think they can always be that. They should, with Link here, I have 100% confidence they'll always be in the conversation, unless there's just a rash of craziness, to be a regional host and a super regional host. Basketball and football is a little more complicated, I think.
So I guess to maybe like simplify it down, although it's a very good nuanced conversation, what is holding, I mean, I guess it's money, right? But I think Florida State, if Florida's doing, and I hate to compare ourselves to Florida, but if Florida can make the tournament, 3 out of 5 years, I mean, there's no reason to think that Florida State cannot. I mean, I can't imagine their NIL is exponentially better than Florida State's. Although, who knows? Maybe with the SEC, it's possible.
Yeah, I think it is. But here's another thing, man. I don't know, when you're going to people in the spring of 2024 and saying, hey, we want some money to get a couple of really good basketball players, I don't know that Leonard Hamilton is getting people to open their wallets. Does that make sense? I know some guys that would attest to that. But in all seriousness, I don't know that you can get and that's all alleged, folks. I love Leonard. Hopefully that lawsuit will be either there'll be a settlement or it'll be dismissed. But I don't know that the allure of Leonard Hamilton is getting people to open their wallets. So I don't think this roster was anything close to as competitive like to Florida. For maybe this year. That doesn't mean it's in perpetuity like that. But for this year, I think people were much more willing to give Todd Golden some money because they probably believe in what he's doing and his vision, and he's proven that he recently, I guess I should say, he's proven very recently that he's a good coach. And so, yeah, that I think that matters. I don't think you have a roster and a team like Florida does, and you're spending Florida State money. I just don't know that that's a reality. But the overarching question is, yeah, man, I think that Florida State should always be in that 70%, 60%, 40%. The football team should always be relevant.
What's
always.
your point about the sorry to interject, but the baseball thing, like you want to be able to host a regional, be in that conversation. Like Florida State should be in the conversation for a playoff spot in November. Like that's my whole be in
November. Especially in this conference.
Yes.
Yeah, especially in this conference. But that's not really the question, I thought, because he was talking about even if they went to the Big Ten or went to one of the Power Two. I think if you get to one of the Power Two, you will be on par with all those teams. It's like I don't know, man. I just watched, by the way, the Formula One Drive to Survive series or whatever it's called, the last the new season, because I didn't know any of that stuff. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I didn't pay attention to it. But, Florida State, let's put it in terms like this. In any conference they're in, they should not be like the Haas. Yeah, exactly. They shouldn't be the Haas team or the Red Bull backup team. Yeah. They should be Red Bull and Mercedes and Ferrari. That's where they should always be, guys.
Or McLaren.
McLaren, yeah. Don't forget McLaren. They're definitely on the come up. But yeah, so run by an American, who I think is the only American on that show.
Principal.
The principal. So again, guys, obviously Azon and I, huge F1 guys. Huge F1 guys. Huge. That's all we want to talk about, really, when it's our own podcast. I know this is lost on a lot of people, but there's 10 teams in the F1. Like what, Aslan? 3 of them have a legitimate chance of winning every year?
Yeah.
Florida State, whatever conference they're in, should be in the upper tier. Yeah. And I don't think that changes. That absolutely better be the reality in the ACC. But I don't think that changes in the SEC or the Big Ten. Now, you're going to have down years. But when you're talking about Florida State, they are on par with Michigan. Let's just put it that way. In the Big Ten, Florida State is on par with the Michigans of the world. Maybe Ohio State's Red Bull. But Florida State is right behind them, and will be, because it's the history, it's the tradition. You're getting the same money. So no, I don't think it's too much to ask that Florida State is always competitive on a national scale. It's going to be harder if you're in one of those conferences. Even though there's more spots, it's hard to win games. You could have a really good team and lose 4 or 5 games, and you're not going to make the playoff. So that might happen, but the key is to have really good teams. And that should always be the case at Florida State. And I think with the investment they always make in this sport, as we just talked about with all the coaches they just paid, that I don't think that changes if they go to a Power 2 and get more money. Now they're on equal footing with Florida financially. They're on equal footing with Georgia and Michigan and Oregon. Okay, man. Well, let's see. Let's see what it looks like. Because I feel like in football especially, basketball – I don't know, man. It shouldn't be hard to make the tournament. It shouldn't be hard to make. Every other year, you should be in contention to make the tournament.
I was going to ask you, when you talk about they are at Michigan's level if they join the Big Ten, does that mean like both men's basketball? Because even Ohio State with Thad Matta had a little stretch right there.
Oh, so. Yeah. No, they're not. They haven't been the program that either one of those programs has been. Ohio State's on a downward spiral now, I think, but they were good for a good long while. In Michigan, Michigan just went and hired the FAU coach, and they've been in national championship games. Florida State's not that. I don't know why they couldn't be that. I would never predict that just because I think it's much like we talk about the football teams in this conference. Some of them just don't care, man. Virginia could have a great team. That fan base just does not care, by and large. They just don't. That's more of a basketball school. Same with Carolina. Same with Duke. And I think there's a reason those teams have never been able to put together a string of great success because they don't. There isn't the upswell of support and care. Florida State. I mean, for a pocket of 5 years, man, they were the third best team in the ACC, third or fourth. They were right there with Duke and Carolina and Virginia. They were right there. So it's hard for me to say that it can't be done. But we have like 60 years to say that it's hard to do. So anyway, I know I didn't answer that question. I don't think, especially when they expand the tournament, if you're in the Big Ten getting Big Ten money or the SEC getting SEC money, there's no reason you shouldn't be good in basketball.
Yeah, you don't have to pick. I mean, that was the second part of his question. You're not gonna, if you get to the Power 2 level, there's no opportunity cost of like, all right, well, we either spend this money for a defensive lineman or for a stretch 4 guy. Like, you're going to have enough to get both worlds.
And have good starting pitching.
Yes.
All of it's there. Keep your softball coach. Yeah. Like, all of that's on the table, man. All of it's on the table. That's why it's so imperative, whether you get to one of those conferences or not, or if the ACC just starts giving you gobs of money to be competitive. That's why money matters. Not just for you get to pay for a defensive lineman, you get to keep your coaches. But yeah, so we'll see, man. I think that Florida State has been good in basketball, I think that people listen to this show, whether the basketball team ever wins a national championship or not, or is nationally relevant or not, football matters the most. We all know that, and I don't see why Florida State football, if they joined one of those conferences, would take a backseat to anyone. Why would they? Oklahoma, like. Who's been better the last 45 years? And Oklahoma's been a good program, but they haven't accomplished as much as Florida State. Who has? Like, again, and I would say this, Clemson's good in football, really good in football, and has been for a decade now. They also have a great basketball team.
And baseball team.
But yeah, right. They can do it. They managed it, so I just don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, and that's when they're in the ACC. That was a long answer. I apologize.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for us then for today's show, Corey. Anything else you want to add? Just want to tell the people you love them, miss them, thinking about them?
I do love them. I miss them. Are we done for the week?
I think so. We'll see. I mean, we always leave the door open for something in case.
Well, yeah, but I'll be on the road. So, yeah, we're done for the week. I don't know why I even asked that. Yeah, I'm going to a wedding.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so going to a wedding. Spencer, who we've talked about, his daughter's getting married. Nice. He did say that his wife has already deleted some words in the Father of the Bride speech because she was worried that he might insult some people. So I can't wait for this wedding. I want to know what he had said that she deleted or edited. So, yeah, going to be a fun time. I haven't been to a wedding other than my own. Yeah. It's been a minute. I don't know that I've ever been to a wedding with Stephanie, unless I'm missing, other than obviously our own. So this will be exciting. We're at the age where you don't really – actually, kind of sad, I am now at the age where I go to my friends' kids' weddings.
Ooh.
I've morphed into that, clearly, because that's what this wedding is. It's the daughter of a friend. You'll get there soon enough, Aslan. You'll get there soon enough. But first, you got to have your own. Yeah. How we doing on that front? Anyway, you ready for the show to end?
Over under 7.5 years, Brady Clark wedding.
Oh, gosh.
Is that a good number?
I'm going to say under, just because.
Oh, nice! He's a lover boy.
Man,
Clark.
he gets infatuated really quickly, and I think it could get really serious really fast. And he could be one that's like it's a shotgun not a shotgun wedding, but it's a 6-month
courtship,
and then it's a wedding.
All right,
but I won't have to pay for it. That's the beauty.
Thanks for listening to another week of Wake Up Warchant. He's Cora Maslon. Have a great one, everybody. Check out vitaminenergy.com, shake it and take it, and warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source.